We don't rely on the Russians to be complete hacks around here. We can do that ourselves. But who wants to start? Hello and welcome to the Mount Rushmore podcast. I'm Jeff, and as always, I'm joined by my good pals Richard.
Hello.
And Michael.
Howdy.
Richard and Michael, throughout the year of our first season of the Mount Rushmore podcast, have done what they always do, and that is debate, deliberate, and agitate each other as they debate the top four things, the Mount Rushmore of any given topic, the four things that best represent that topic. And this week is no different. Well, it is kind of different because we're looking inward. We're gazing toward our year and examining it. And this week's topic is the Mount Rushmore of Season 1's Mount Rushmore of Mount Rushmores. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I think you did.
Close enough.
Yeah. Okay.
Good enough for government work.
Was this kind of our mutual idea to kind of take stock of what we did this year?
When I started filling out the schedule and trying to look at all of our dates, and I thought, let's wrap this up on a high note. Let's look back. Let's look forward. Let's also tally up and see who won.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Because ultimately, this is a contest between me and Richard and then some occasional other parties. So.
Yeah. Well, it's good to look at, did either of us come ahead in the win column this year?
Yeah, but mostly I just wanted to relitigate all of our and reopen our old wounds, and just really dig the knife in one final time before the new year.
I don't know. We'll start to tally the results and everything, but I just want to leave it open that this could have been hacked by the Russians.
I mean, why not? They hacked everything else.
Yeah, hack us.
Yeah.
Hack away, guys.
I think
if there's anything secret you think you can get out of us, feel free.
When we do see the final score, I would like to say that, the Russians hacked it, and that's the only reason why the result
is Vladimir Putin coming up ahead?
I think
Poo 10, by the way, Poo 10.
We don't rely on the Russians to be complete hacks around here. We can do that ourselves. But who wants to start?
I'll go ahead and start, since it was Michael's, I think, drove this. So the first thing I want to mention is Vivian putting Michael in his place.
Okay,
frequently, often during that whole during the podcast that my daughter Vivian was the guest judge on, which was the Mount Rushmore of recess activities.
Yeah,
episode 17.
Yes, it was, and it was kind of frightening because she was better than I was. And this is not even being like facetious or haha. Vivian is better at doing this than I am. There's no doubt about it.
Do you think children exist in a place where they're kind of naturally rhetorical and they don't really believe in the Marcus de Queensberry rules, where if you're beating the crap out of somebody, even in a debate, that you should lighten up for a little bit and let them rebut? Sort
of, but I think Vivian, not to be braggadocious here, but I think
what? This is not braggadocious.
I'm turning it into a Howard Cosell bit.
You seem like Honey Boo Boo's mom right now.
Not to brag, but Vivian's pretty smart. This was not knocking Michael specifically, but I do remember there was specifically the point where we were talking about tag, and then we started talking about adult tag. When you have the running game that goes throughout the year.
Yeah,
and we mentioned don't do that. That's creepy. One last thing about tag: don't do it as an adult.
No.
Don't do it as one of those things where you have like a group of friends. Or like a group of friends. Like we knew some people who would do that thing every year where they'd play like the adult thing of tag, and they try and like seat people out like at their apartments, or like where they work, and like only like the kickball fields were like safe, but like during the rest of the time you had to try not get. Don't do that.
Yeah,
it's a kid. Not only is it just that it's a kid's game.
Some people may think you're a stalker.
My daughter pretty much nailed
point.
It right there. That was Vivian's whole take on it.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud to have a 9-year-old who's aware of stalking and knowing the limits.
Yeah. I think she also, as a child, they own recess. So she had that confidence from that.
Yeah, and she knows what's up with reading being a recess activity.
I think that was what was most telling from that episode was the things that weren't said on the episode, which was, we really couldn't, lay the smack down quite enough with your lovely 9-year-old daughter.
Maybe she was 8 by then. She might not turn 9 yet.
What, with your lovely daughter in the room, it was very hard to not just
rip that one apart.
Just take both barrels to it and just be like, are you effing kidding me? Because, we want to encourage reading and we want to encourage education. But just not in the recess.
The American Asthma Council fully supported my pick. Just so you know.
But that was fun. That was fun having her in there.
A.
The A.
C.
A.
Of America.
Richard is married, and that's a full-on tailhound move. I just like reading and being sensitive at recess while other people are out there kind of practicing their machismo on the monkey bars.
Yeah,
Up the latest Vanity Fair.
Just like to talk to girls about what you're really thinking about.
That was a fun episode.
That was a good one, and I just, we did not plan it ahead of time that I was going to win.
No, never do.
So should I just bring her every week so you guys can't rip on me? Does that work?
This is a good defense mechanism.
Yeah, it is pretty good.
I got a wheelchair kid that I'm going to bring.
Bring your child to podcast day.
All right, so Michael, I guess then you get to rebut. Jump in there.
My first choice was our first episode, which was the Mount Rushmore of fictional presidents. And I went back and listened to it recently. Mostly this entire time, we've always been trying to fix audio issues.
Oh, yeah.
And I went back and listened to our first episode. It sounded pretty damn good.
So somehow we broke it between episode 1 and episode 4, and then we spent the last however many episodes trying to get it back to that.
40 episodes of being like, don't
futz with it, as I believe you told me before that we started recording.
But one of the things that I liked about that first episode was I brought up the subject or the choice of Abraham Lincoln, vampire hunter. And I remember that both of you guys were like, oh, wait a minute.
The next president on my list is President Abraham Lincoln, vampire hunter.
Good Lord.
Now, this is an interesting case of using a real president from history,
right?
But then adding a huge.
All right. Sidebar. Is this allowed? He was actual president.
Well, no, it's a real. I think I would allow it because it's not like the
his
version of Lincoln. About
that the liberal media has put out there.
Right.
The document that is the novel. Quote unquote novel.
Yeah, is this from the book or from the movie version?
Wait, what was the subject? Oh, the fictional
presidents.
Okay,
and I think both of you,
because I didn't know he was. Yeah. I thought that was real. I thought it was a documentary.
I think both of you were a little squiggly on the pick, being like, I don't know if that's allowed, and I like that it almost set a precedent for the rest of the podcast being like
how much we could get away with.
Yeah, and I like the aspect of getting away with things within the bounds of things either being defined or undefined.
Yeah.
And I think it's become a hot topic or a hot button issue at times. And I'm sure we'll get to that later. But for that particular episode, right off the bat, it was like, wait, I don't know if this is allowed. And then Jeff had to rule on it as judge, whether he'd allow it or not.
Because he is a real president in a fictitious scenario, right?
Yes, he wasn't actually a vampire hunter.
Yes, but we thought the subject was fictional presidents.
Yeah, but
we're past that.
This came up at one point. Recently, it came up.
We passed it
in episode 38, the video game power-ups. This is interesting. Neither of you guys got that upset about the meat from Gauntlet being a power-up. And every person I have talked to about this episode, including Vivian, said, meat is not a power-up, Dad. That's just something you need to survive.
I questioned it at the time, but I didn't press it.
Yeah, I was. In hindsight, you probably would have had a legitimate case there.
I was talking to my stepdad on Skype over the weekend, and we were talking about the podcast, and he said, I listened to your last episode, and I thought it was great, and yada, yada. You should be more edgy. And I was like, I don't know, what does that mean, edgy? And he'll probably listen to this, and hi, Morgan. But he's like, go at him a little bit. Oh. It's just like, well, I am what I am.
And we kind of think alike a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So it's not, we could have an ESPN First Take, stage a fake debate thing. And I know
hot take a palooza over here, but we don't.
And I know our logo is the two of us screaming at each other, but it's happened a couple of times. There's been a couple where it got a little legitimately hot.
See, if you look at the logo, it's from our waist up. Underneath the waist, we're shaking hands or something,
and no pants,
So it's fun.
Well, that is true that you do not agree, yet you do not attack each other's opinions often. It's usually like, oh, that's cool. I never thought of that. That's usually the response. You're right. This is boring.
However,
end of podcast.
However, this does lead very well into my second choice, which is the Muppet Sesame Street fiasco.
Sure, also on my list.
A defining moment, I believe, in the podcast and our friendship.
I think it really exemplified your ability to dig in to a particular point of view and not let go, no matter how wrong and collectively wrong you are, and how the world really acknowledges that you're wrong. And then you're still like, I mean, we were on that other podcast on Poorly Summarized.
And they agreed with me.
Yeah.
They agreed with me. If a Muppet has legs, it's no longer, if it has legs, it's not a Muppet.
Yeah.
Muppet.
Sweetums isn't a Muppet?
No, he's like a big
bird's
costume
not a
guy
Muppet.
type guy.
Okay,
Yeah.
see this. This is the thing: is you had a couple of yokels from Utah agree with you, and let's not trust them.
That's why Kermit isn't a Muppet?
No, Kermit's a Muppet, but
Okay.
he doesn't. It's not like a person with legs inside like a suit.
Yeah.
That's a suit. Sweetums is a suit.
So is he a puppet?
No, he's like
What is he then? If he's not a Muppet, like this
he's
is
like a mascot guy.
so
Muppet-
the
Muppet
Jim Henson's mascots and Muppets. Is that what the show is, or is it Jim Henson's Muppets? Is it the Muppet Show? I mean, what's the goddamn show, Richard? Is it the mascot show and the Muppets, or what are we doing here? And that is an example of us being edgy.
Yeah, that's edgy.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michael Stepdad. But that was one where I remember getting legit. I think I might have ate about 6 tacos from Taco Bell. That was one of the.
So, Michael, what's your next choice?
My next one is the most famous Sesame Street character, which is Big Bird.
No, wait, hold on. Okay, hold on. Time out.
I think Richard's throwing
Whoa.
the white flag as if the entire Sesame Street cast isn't made of Muppets for some reason.
Well, but this should be a separate podcast. Sesame Street character should be
But-
a separate episode.
Kermit's a Sesame Street character.
But he's a crossover from the Muppets. He's not originally a Sesame Street
came
character.
out before the Muppets, so
These are just Muppets. Muppets are Muppets.
Richard's.
I'm gonna go eat a taco while you guys talk about this. I'll be right back.
Okay. Literally going to go eat a taco.
Literally
Goodbye.
By the way, I should point out, I did mean to point this out when you were talking about the fictional presence one.
Yeah.
We actually have 2 episodes that have never been heard. Well, technically 3, but there were 2 of them that we recorded sort of as test runs or pilots. I don't know whatever you
There
want
was
to call
one.
it.
Remember the "What's the Deal with Women" episode?
Yeah.
I think we listened back and thought maybe this isn't very good.
Right. So we have one that's months, and we have one that's worst movie accents.
Yeah, well, worst movie accents has been played out throughout this entire podcast by both of us, maybe all 3 of us.
Yeah, I think we could do a supercut just of my bad accents.
Yeah, I'd like to go back and listen to see what months I chose and see if I'd change it now.
I seem to remember July, or I think May, being very contentious on my part. Maybe if you ever get like a Patreon or one of those like donation systems where you can put up bonus episodes for people who donate, we'll go ahead and put those up, and you guys can hear what truly crappy audio sounds like.
That's worth the $4 that we get from Patreon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Michael and Richard have each given 2 of their samples of the Mount Rushmore, of the Mount Rushmores, of the Mount Rushmore. And so this is our halftime moment where I implore you to really go out and discover, taste the rainbow of all the Mount Rushmore podcasts that we have posted on iTunes. We've done this for a year now, a little short of a year, and have enjoyed it and want to share it with you. All the stuff we've done this year, and then want to go into the next year with a strong following and a lot of new listeners. So go to the Mount Rushmore podcast webpage, go to iTunes, download, rate, and review as many episodes as you have time to. Some folks will have a week or so off. Now the holidays are coming up, so sit down and give a listen, or on your long drive over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house. Go ahead and listen to some of these podcasts. And follow us at Mount Rushmore Podcast on Twitter and Facebook, and get in the conversation with us. We got a whole year we're planning, so this is a good time to get your bid in on what topics you'd like to hear us discuss. So we would love to hear from you on things you'd like us to talk about this next year. So we are back. Who's going? It's Michael.
So my choice, my third pick, is episode 24, the Mount Rushmore of horses. And I remember, we have a small Facebook group that the 3 of us,
It's the admin group. It's like our internal.
we volleyball around ideas and suggest things and get drunk and just throw things up there. And Richard one day put up just horses, and I knew that was going to be a great fucking topic.
What I like liked about this horse is that everybody liked this horse and loved this horse, and this was the biggest, littlest thing in their town. Yeah. And I think it was in season 2 or season 3 they just kind of randomly introduced this horse, and for the Harvest Festival, and everyone went crazy.
Ladies and gentlemen, the world famous Lil Sebastian.
What? Yes! Oh my God! Oh my God! I never thought I'd get to meet him. It's really him. Well done.
And even like the super stubborn, tough guy Ron Swanson.
Love the horse.
I was just weird. Like, sometimes we try to get a little esoteric with them, or sometimes we get a little complex with the names and choices. But when he said horses, there was something that just clicked, and I knew it was something that I needed to research. It was something I needed to explore and really think about. And it was just one of my favorite topics to record and then listen back to. And it was such a stupid episode, and weird and informative. And there's going to be a couple in the new year that I'm already excited about. And one of them, I'll just let you know, Mount Rushmore of jackets is going to be a hell.
Yeah, right.
God, we're on it.
Right?
Jeff suggested that one, and as soon as Jeff wrote that one, look out for it in 2017. But the Mount Rushmore of jackets is going to be right up there with horses.
Folks, if that isn't enough for you to donate to our cause alone, knowing that there's jackets coming up, I don't know how to please you.
I've already started writing stuff down. Like anytime someone suggests something like this, it was just like, oh, I got to get my thoughts down right away.
All right, Richard.
Well, I was just going to say on that note before we move on, here are some of the topics that we've had that, as the person who admins the Twitter feed, who has 100 and whatever it is, 60 characters to try and put everything in, have caused me some headaches. The Mount Rushmore of imaginary features of your future imaginary house.
That was one of my. I almost put that one on my list. That was a good title.
Where's the?
Oh, just while he's searching, Richard told me that in his Mount Rushmore of jackets, sweaters.
A cardigan is like a jacket.
It's got a buttons. You put it on. I don't know what you guys want. Mount Rushmore of best actors. Seriously, like Daniel Day-Lewis, and no shitting around.
Yeah,
that was one.
Well, I was serious about that one.
Yeah, Mount Rushmore of annoying things at concerts. Says some 30 to 40-year-olds.
I like that these are all titles that I've come up with.
Yeah.
Self-editing is not your strong point.
I have thoughts, and those thoughts sometimes have commas and semicolons and parentheses and periods and exclamation points, and they need to be heard, not like horses.
Right.
Oh, you put ampersand. I meant and.
Okay, so my next one is the Shitty Candies episode.
Oh, yeah.
And more specifically, 2 things about this. One, Raisinets.
God, I was surprised.
Michael had to eat that one. And by eat it, I mean literally eat it.
Listen, when I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
You were wrong.
I was wrong. We're bad.
If you guys have not heard the episode, I would highly recommend it. I think it's my favorite standalone sort of thing we did. One of Michael's choices was Raisinets, and part of the episode we brought representative examples of our shitty candy choices.
Yeah, that was episode 26 if you want to go back into the archives.
Yeah.
We open up the vault right now. Jeff, let's close the vault. Let's make keypad and handprint identification. Retinous chicken noise.
It's a chicken vault.
What just happened? And funny thing is, we were all convinced, like, oh, that's a great choice. God, Raisinets are terrible. Well, let's try it, I guess. And then immediately we tried it. It was like,
I gotta say, I like them. Okay.
No, it's not too bad. Actually, after having bitched about,
it's weird they didn't like
raisins for that long.
They
It's
didn't
not terrible.
taste terribly like raisins. Maybe the ratio has changed over the years. But
Tastes more like chocolate with a little hint of something.
Hint of
I can barely taste.
It's such a sweetened raisin.
No, that's not bad.
Hold on a second. So, I'm on board with the dark chocolate. I don't think that was terrible.
So we've gone through the
and
whole
then
plot.
We're kind of on board with this raisinette thing.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, you know what? When I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong.
Wow.
And,
Okay.
I'd still never ordered.
No, they're not good enough that I'd want to eat them. That's not getting crazy. They're actually pretty good.
I could do that.
The best thing was, like, you had to go through the other 2 picks you had or whatever, knowing that you'd already lost.
Sure. Well, you know.
And sometimes you just gotta play out the string. You can't be all in the playoff hunt sometimes.
So that episode raised the ire. if you bring up like fictitious secretaries of state in films or something like that, nobody replies in the Facebook commentary. But Candy, we got a lot of replies.
Yeah, everyone has an opinion on Raisinets.
Yeah. What was the biggest contention? There was something about...
Not the Candies one, I
thought there was something about not Necco wafers, or there's something where somebody got irritated.
Did it involve circus peanuts? You got those circus peanut freaks.
Yeah, okay.
But
they're right up there with the flat earthers.
What we had to go through for that episode, this also falls into the category of things we had to put up with to do the damned episode.
Yeah.
Which was eating all of these god-awful candies. I'm glad you didn't find the Abba Zaba, by the way, as we all should be.
Me too.
Although, let me ask you guys this real quick. Was that worse than Jeff's Facebook Live yogurt eating?
Live.
I don't know. When we were trying to figure out what to do with video, I think that we still haven't figured it out and haven't found a good application, because a video of three guys sitting around chatting isn't all that interesting.
Not particularly, no.
But I mean, maybe we can find new ways. And you know what we need to do? We need to have a retreat, you guys.
Oh yeah,
we should have a winter retreat.
Okay,
we go away and we kind of hash out some ideas.
Do we grow our beards out?
Yeah, we grow our beards out.
Are we together or separately?
Oh no, this is separate states.
Okay.
Yeah,
we do the sweat lodge thing on our own.
Okay,
call it just going to Christmas with the families. Is what it means.
Michael,
my last choice was episode 27, the Mount Rushmore of Desert Island albums, also known as Desert Island Discs, or
Desert Island Discs.
Or Desert Island Discs, or albums you'd have on a desert island, or whatever that shitty trope is. It can go by any one of those names. There are some episodes and some topics like horses that I don't think any of us really care about, but Richard and I are both pretty big music guys.
And so is Jeff.
Yeah, and, Jeff is too. Yeah,
I think you're definitely more knowledgeable than I am, and you go to more concerts for sure than I do.
And I think that there are some things that we particularly care about, or that put a lot of thought into, that sometimes mean a lot more. And I know that, like, I've lost a couple of episodes, like music ones in particular, where it was like, man, I thought I won that one, or I wanted to win that one. And that doesn't happen on every episode. But the Desert Island Discs, I think I did win. And it was a great episode, one, to edit. I took over some of the editing.
Yeah.
And Jeff's been doing some of the editing. Like, the three of us have all been involved. I remember there was one part when I was editing one of Richard's choices, which was like the John Zorn music.
Yeah.
When he was talking about like driving around downtown
Fresno. It's so damned weird and aggressive that we'd go cruising on Blackstone Boulevard in Fresno, and everyone else would be pumping like, I don't know, Dr. Dre or something like that. And we'd have this weird screaming. Suddenly transitioning to swing jazz and suddenly going back to screaming, blasting, and we would just get the strangest fucking looks.
The entire topic I thought was a good subject, and just our different choices, I thought we approached it very differently. And it was just one of the more difficult and interesting and satisfying episodes all around. That was just like, okay, I like this podcast. Mm-hmm. I liked listening back to it as well.
Right. It's hard for me to listen back to it sometimes.
Sure.
It's just weird because you sort of lived it once.
Well, I know what would happen.
And you have to hear your own voice.
For me, what happened
is... And I have to hear your voice.
we got a little ahead of ourselves at one point, and we had episodes that were recorded that were like a month later.
Right.
So you'd edit them, and then I'd come back and listen to it and be like, I forgot all of these things that I said, or all of the picks, or all of Jeff's quips. And it was just like, it was great. But when you're in it and you're editing it and it comes out that week, you're kind of like, okay, I don't need to listen to it again on Thursday. I've heard it 12 times through the headphones, but ultimately that one was very, very satisfying across all board, like across topic, across final product.
I think it's telling that the music ones tend to be the ones that run like an hour.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think the two of us can just ramble on about, to use a Led Zeppelin pun, ramble on about music for a while.
What's your final one, Richard?
Okay, so my final one was our trip to the LA Podcast Fest.
Oh.
Which was a special episode. I don't know if it has a number to it. It may just be special edition or something like that.
I'll find it, but
yeah. So
the very special episodes usually where somebody learns about drinking or drugs,
racism or something,
or something like that.
And I learned about racism at the LA Podcast Fest.
Yeah.
No, so we went. It's an event that was here in Los Angeles, obviously at the Sofitel Hotel, technically in Beverly Hills. So it should have been the Beverly Hills Podcast Fest, but whatever.
Episode 31 and a half. Let's call it.
There we go. We didn't know what we were getting into necessarily. None of us had been to anything like this. We went like it was a 3-day thing, but we only went on the Sunday. It's interesting for a few reasons. Most importantly, to see Jeff running around interrupting people.
Sticking it up with a selfie stick.
Jamming a selfie stick into their face.
Yeah, Jeff in his element was magical.
It really was.
On the fly and perfect.
Because the idea was we went up to people who were just kind of wandering around the show floor and started asking them what's on their Mount Rushmore podcasts. And it was sort of a question like, well, who's going to do this? Do we take turns? And then Jeff kind of just...
Yeah, thing 1 and thing 2 got out of the way, and the cat in the hat jumped in and knew what to do.
And it was...
How that hack and how that technical stuff. This is the Selfie Stick podcast.
2 years in a row.
Somebody play Beat It! Somebody play Beat It right now. Oh my gosh. Murray, Road Stories podcast will not throw down with Mount Rushmore podcast right here on the floor here.
Michael and I are both, we talked about this later, kind of wallflowers in those sort of situations. I don't do very well. I don't like people.
I think you respect human decency and people's bubble, which I just have disregard for.
And Jeff would just run up to people and they would do a segment with us before they even realized what had happened.
Yeah. I have done that occupationally where you have to just go up to strangers. I had to do that in Las Vegas once where half the people don't even want to be seen, much less have you have a camera in your face. Well, one thing that was fun about that event was how much podcasting is a solitary act. We do it in the confines of our studios, and we're out there searching for other people's podcasts via iTunes, but you rarely get to meet the people, and so many people are looking to network by making connections with other podcasters. So I was surprised at how little rejection I ever got. People were there to try to talk to somebody. So.
Very friendly people there, and I also enjoyed the free candy.
Oh, good. That was a good candy.
Hi, Mark Hirschon from Split Cider, etc. I enjoyed us trying to find the Mongolian restaurant at the food court at the Beverly Center that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
that was fun.
We ended up at Panera. So I think we ended up at Panera.
Yeah,
yeah.
It was a sad trip to Panera. I'm trying to think. It was just interesting to sort of be out in the wild a little bit.
Yeah,
can't wait to go back next year.
Oh yeah.
Organizers of LA Podfest, I think you've got an A-list moderator right here in the Mount Rushmore guys. So if you want to have us on your show in Beverly Hills. So I guess this has been my moment to say what my Mount Rushmore of the Mount Rushmores of last year's Mount Rushmores were. And in a way, I guess this is supporting the theme of this year. Whether we know it or not, this year is a bit getting better at doing the Mount Rushmore podcast. So I think we started off, gosh darn it, pretty good. And from a technical and production standpoint and a performance standpoint, if this is what that is, I think we got better. If you were to take clips of each of the episodes and put them to one against the other in a montage of sorts, it would be an interesting training montage. And that was my favorite episode of the Mount Rushmore podcast, probably because I think it's the first time where I really felt like we were in a dangerous spot, because there was a little bit of a debate about some of the music montages.
Break controversy came up, and we have resolved it. But let's go back and tell the people what happened.
Well, it appears that the song "Eye of the Tiger" by Survivor, as great a song as it was, wasn't actually part of the training montage. It was.
It is in fact going to fly now.
It was going to fly now. It was part of the opening montage of Rocky just beating ass.
Yeah, kicking the ass of tomato cans. Polly giving side eyes to Adrian at some point.
The actual song that was played during the training.
Our first one. Yeah. First one, in fact.
Yeah, Aaron
Space Museum.
Aaron Space Museum submitted that to us. Aaron Gershman. Yeah.
So it was neat to have a dialogue with our listeners and have a little bit of a live moment where we weren't sure if we'd messed up or not.
Well, it's been fun the last, call it couple, like 8 episodes. We've kind of mixed it up a little bit, and I hope you guys have indulged our need to try and keep it fresh with having Michael and I take turns being judges.
Yeah, that's been fun.
We had our wives come in and do an episode.
Equally fun.
Brought Scott Jones in to be a contestant.
Well.
So and we look for. I'm hoping we get to do more of that this coming year. And maybe we should talk. Maybe we can just talk about that for a minute. Just things we want to do coming up this year. And I really want to get more listeners involved and fans and people who don't know us involved and kind of mix it up because I think it's
send
great to
money.
That too. That too.
PayPal at Donald Trump, make America great again.
One of the underlying topics, I think, and ribbons throughout this podcast this year, I think through everyone's lives this year has just been the Trumpiness of everything. Yeah. And I mean, if our podcast can last for 4 more years, and we can still fall back on terrible Donald Trump jokes, I guess. Maybe.
I think we got 6 months till impeachment. I'm not sure how long.
Well, you can.
If our podcast can last 6 months, that's good enough.
Well, you can track like the election by the Donald Trump jokes we were making.
Oh, sure.
And if we were making them like, yeah, of course he's not going to be president versus I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just glad that I had the Donald Trump's wall on my Wonders of the World.
Yeah, because it might happen.
I got that in the history books before it happened, you clowns.
And you know what? Just getting together with you guys.
Yeah.
That should be on the Mount Rushmore.
That's the Mount Rushmore for sure. I've also found it fun, not that anybody ever requested this, but I have the dubious honor of finding a winner at the end of each episode. And twice I've not found a winner. I made it a tie.
That was not on the Mount Rushmore.
That was not. These guys hated that. But what I think is a theme for each of these individuals is they have these individuals being Richard and Michael is Richard leads with his brain. Michael leads with his heart. I feel like Dorothy of Oz sometimes when I'm judging them by these.
Or are you the cowardly lion?
I think I am.
Not wanting to make a choice.
I'm definitely cowardly.
There we go. Nailed it. Yeah.
Right. I don't know. Do we judge this one? Do we judge this one?
Yeah, you can. I mean, you should. But we'll break some ground here. A tie is not going to change the ultimate standings, and whoever wins the season. And I have something for Richard. Hold on, let me rustle something.
Oh, there's rustling happening.
Oh boy,
there's digging in a bag.
The wrestling music will match the vault music.
Also, not the wrestling music though.
For Richard, who really had won this about 6-7 weeks ago, when I knew, maybe a little longer, who was going to finish out. I think I can't remember which episode it was that I lost, that I realized, well, there's no coming back. I have a tiny trophy for his tiny achievement.
Hey, well.
The Mount Rushmore podcast, season 1 winner, Richard Manfredi.
All right. This will go. I'm honored for this. This will go right next to my kickball MVP trophy that's somewhere in my house.
I was really close to putting a bunch of asterisks on there.
Just like 17 asterisks.
Or just a bunch of quotation marks. Season winner.
I really wanted to put Manfredi in asterisks as well.
Or misspell my name.
Yeah.
Or misspell my name. Would have also accepted that.
Congratulations, Richard.
Yeah, I didn't.
Is there a speech?
That was it. That's my speech.
The final tally before Jeff gives his pronouncement is Richard 21, Michael 17.
Oh, wow.
Guests 2.
Oh, wow.
And Jeff won.
He was in there with Jeff.
Oh, was
Jeff
he?
/ guest.
Oh, okay.
And also 3 ties between us.
Sure.
So good job, everybody.
So ties did better than guests.
Well, you know what? I hereby declare this an exhibition game.
You can do that.
I guess so. Hey, listen,
he's
international
the judge.
podcasting laws of
bylaws state.
We know.
Yeah.
All right, so this has been the Mount Rushmore podcast. We hope you have a happy new year. I, as usual, have been Jeff.
Hold on a second, guys.
The final.
This is Richard.
I'm Michael.